Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Nation's Pastime in the nation's capital. I'm your host, Andrew Snaith, here with my co-hosts, James Higgins and Robbie Cruz, and we are so happy to be back in the WCUA studio and bringing it live to you.
Thank you, everybody, for joining tonight. It's a beautiful evening here in Washington, D.C. Baseball is officially upon us. Spring training is back, and honestly, I couldn't be more excited for a brand new year.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more, and we are happy that you're joining us here. Just a quick little notice before we get started. As you can probably tell, we are live now every Thursday night from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. EST. As you've seen so far, it's going to be a little after 7. We have a show before us. There's going to be a transition period before we get started. And all of our live shows will be posted on the YouTube channel. Find that again, Nation's Pastime, the Nation's Capital on YouTube. Or follow our Twitter. That's at NatPastimeCap, at NatPastimeCap. And, yeah, we still have call-in here, so if you want to call in and talk to us about anything that you may want to, that number is 202-319-5106. That's 202-319-5106. And I believe, due to certain circumstances here, we have one of our members joining us remotely. James, are you there? Can you hear us? Okay, we have a little bit of technical difficulties here. James is going to join us in just a second. But while we get that sorted out here, let's just start talking about how wonderful it is that we're going to have 162 games of baseball this year, Robbie.
Yes, sir. And I think that because there is 162 games this season, I believe that alone is going to change the outcome of the regular season. I believe that last season the Dodgers won the World Series because there was a shortened season. I believe if you extend the regular season to 162 games, there is a team out there in New York named the New York Yankees that would have won the World Series. I don't believe that we would have faced the Tampa Bay Rays in the first round. I don't believe that we would have lost to them at 5 games. And I believe that we would have faced the Dodgers in the World Series, which evidently would have led us to winning the World Series.
So let me get this straight here. We are starting off the new season of Nation's Pastime in the nation's capital with a Robbie Cruz signature hot take. And that is, of course, that the Dodgers would not have won the World Series if not for it being a 60-game season. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's exactly what you're hearing. Your ears are not deceiving you right now, Andrew.
Wow. Well, why don't you explain a little more about why you think that's the case? Because I got to be honest, from my perspective, it was a fair game for everyone. Everyone had to play 60 games. Everyone had to go through the crazy protocols. Everyone had to play in the extended postseason with, how many teams were we even up to? 16 at that point? Everyone had to do that.
I don't believe that if the season is extended, I don't believe the Yankees have as many injuries. I don't believe that the Yankees face as many problems throughout the season. If the season is not shortened, I believe that the New York Yankees would have won the World Series because they would have had more time to stay healthy, which would have led to better chemistry. I believe that Garrett Cole would have had more time to improve his pitches. I believe that Luis Severino possibly could have came back. I believe that Davy Garcia would have been improved. I believe so many factors would have been changed if we had a 162-game regular season. That's not even a debate for me.
Well, that's quite the hot take.
I don't think that would have been the case. I think the Dodgers would have won no matter what.
James, we hear you loud and clear.
Good. I'm glad. Sorry about that, guys. I guess, little difficulty with Zoom, but I'm glad to be back this year. Thank you guys for having me again. And to jump in on Robbie's point, I completely disagree with him. And I completely agree with what you said earlier, Andrew. Everyone faced the same circumstances last year. Sure, it wasn't the normal grind of a 162-game season, but everyone was playing 60 games. Everyone had fresh arms going into the postseason. Bodies were fresher in general, just rosters down the line. So everyone was playing with the same circumstances. Everyone was getting tested daily, playing in neutral sites, and I think being away from your family for 2 or 3 months consecutively took a toll on guys. And since everyone had to deal with it, I don't think that there should be an asterisk next to it at all. And ultimately, the Dodgers were the most talented team, even going into the season when we didn't think it would be shortened.
See, I don't believe that the Dodgers were the most talented team. I look at that Dodgers bullpen. That Dodgers bullpen was an absolute aberration last season. I believe that the New York Yankees would have beaten them because I believe Adam Ottavino would have had time to improve his pitches, which meant that he would not have made the same mistakes that he made in the regular season. I believe Chad Green would have had more time to improve. I believe so many things would have been changed with this New York Yankees team. And I believe that Tampa Bay Rays team doesn't perform as well.
Didn't the shortened season give the Yankees less time to get hurt? Because that's been their bugaboo for the last 2 or 3 years is their constant injuries. So I feel like that would have been a benefit to the Yankees. And going into last year, the Dodgers acquiring Mookie Betts was the move that would put them over the top, and ultimately it did, and they continued to add to it by adding Trevor Bauer this offseason. So I think they could just be getting started here. Obviously, it's a long season ahead of us, but they're the favorites once again, and for good reason.
I got to agree with you there, especially about this season, and we are going to talk a little bit about the off seasons that some teams had this year. But in the case of the Dodgers, when we went into this offseason, I had one thing on my mind, and it was the fact that the Dodgers need to do something to make a statement that they weren't done. And let me tell you something, going $18 million over the luxury tax and bringing in the former Cy Young winner especially did that. So I have to agree with you there, James. A very hot take by Robbie Cruz here, and I think it is one that may have some merit if we flesh it out a little bit more. But as for now, it seems to be 2 for 1 here in the nation's pastime and the nation's capital group.
Guess what? You can have 8 against 1, and I would still stand on this hill.
And you know what? That's absolutely why we admire your commitment, Robbie.
Yes. There is so much evidence that backs up the statement that the New York Yankees would have won the World Series if the season wasn't shortened. I'm going to stand by that. I'm willing to die on this hill. Do you understand that? I am willing to stand up for my beliefs that Yankee team would have won the World Series had it not been a shortened season. I said it the year before, and honestly, I believe Luke Voit could have been a stronger MVP candidate. I believe he could have built up his MVP case if the season doesn't get cut short, because I guarantee you, Luke Voit ended the season with 22 home runs. If you give him 162 games, he's hitting at least 50 home runs. If you give Luke Voit a 162-game season, he would hit at least 50 home runs, I believe, and that right there merits alone for a strong MVP case. And also, this is totally irrelevant. I know we talked about this last semester, but DJ LeMahieu should have won the MVP award. That's another thing I will stand by.
James, thoughts on the MVP race last year?
Jose Abreu completely deserved it.
Okay.
Like, look at where that White Sox team was last year. In 2019 compared to where they were in 2020. Obviously, you had contributions from a lot of guys. Tim Anderson, Moncada was hurt. Like, you look at the stretch run in September that Jose Abreu had, he really separated himself from the pack.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that there. He did have a fantastic season. One that I think we were waiting for Jose Abreu to have for the longest time. He was always a high-touted, I guess he was technically a prospect when he came out of Cuba.
Yeah, well, he made the major leagues right as he came over.
That's what it was. They signed him right out of Cuba.
Yep.
And everyone was always expecting big things from him, and he had a couple of really, really good seasons, but last year was just definitely something special. Although, in this case, I'm going to have to side with Robbie Cruz here. I do believe that DJ LeMahieu may have been slightly more of a valuable player. I do understand that Jose Abreu essentially did complete that Chicago White Sox team, which, by the way, is very talented, and we'll be talking about them later for sure. But I'm not sure if he was as valuable to the White Sox as DJ LeMahieu was to the Yankees.
Do you understand that DJ LeMahieu does so many more things than Jose Abreu does? DJ LeMahieu plays more positions. DJ LeMahieu usually hits for a higher average. DJ LeMahieu may not be the power hitter that Jose Abreu is, but hey, he still hits home runs. DJ LeMahieu, Gold Glove player. DJ LeMahieu, you can hit him anywhere in the lineup, whereas Jose Abreu, you can really only hit him third or fourth in that lineup. He's not fast. He's not athletic. He's just a big power hitter who coincidentally last year hit for average. And if you give DJ LeMahieu a full 162-game season, I think he would have won the MVP because I think he would have had more time to get more home runs. I believe Jose Abreu would have gotten his slump because there have been moments in his career where he's really fallen off, whereas DJ LeMahieu has not fallen off. So those are reasons why I believe DJ LeMahieu was robbed.
All right. I think you've made your point very clear here. DJ LeMahieu, indeed, the MVP in Robbie Cruz's book. Possibly still feeling a little bit of resentment from the Aaron Judge snub in 2017 when somebody named Jose Altuve decided to win the MVP instead. Not sure if that's confirmed or not. Just guessing on behalf of Robbie here. But let's go ahead and discuss the offseason then. I talked about this a little bit earlier, but we really want to dig into what made this offseason so great and so bad for some certain teams, because I got to tell you something. There were some teams this offseason that had more than noteworthy, like historically good off seasons, and then there are some that are just so head-scratchingly bad that you have no idea what was going on. So, James, I'm going to start with you. I think we all know what team had the best offseason, and we'll talk about them, but who do you think had the absolute worst offseason in 2021?
I think all of us will agree that it's the Colorado Rockies.
I think that we are in agreement, yes.
Paying $50 million to the St. Louis Cardinals to take on a future Hall of Famer, one of the best all-around players in the game, four-time Platinum Glove Award winner, 8-time Gold Glove Award winner, all consecutive for the Gold Gloves. 4 or 5-time All-Star. He's going to slot right into that 3 or 4 hole, either in front or behind of Paul Goldschmidt. And he is exactly what the St. Louis Cardinals needed to replace what Marcell Ozuna was to them in 2019, another middle-of-the-order bat to protect Paul Goldschmidt. And he's a huge going on to who had one of the best off seasons. That move alone for St. Louis makes it them into having one of the best off seasons. But the Rockies have not signed a major league free agent in 2 off seasons?
Yeah,
2 off seasons.
They paid $50 million for their future Hall of Fame third baseman to go to another team. Trevor Story is next at some point, whether it's going to be before the deadline or whether they don't trade him at all, but he's leaving Colorado. I mean, how do the Rockies justify this? There's no justification for trading Nolan Arenado for practically nothing. They didn't get Nolan Gorman back. They didn't get Liberatore back. Like, who did they get back of absolute value? Seems like it was more of a salary dump for them and just wanting to move on. It was absolutely ridiculous.
See, and it's funny that you mentioned the past 2 years, because if you go back at least the past 4, the Rockies seem to have a history of failed free agent signings. I saw a fantastic video on YouTube the other day. I'm not sure who it was by, and I'll give them credit in the upload of this episode. But they looked at the past, I believe, 8 free agent signings of the Rockies. We're talking guys like Ian Desmond, Brian Shaw, Wade Davis. I think Daniel Murphy was on there. Guys like this. And they said if you look at the past 8 major league free agent signings of the Rockies, they combined to have negative WAR. That means the last 8 major league free agents that the Rockies have committed money to and signed have actually cost them at least 1 game.
Well, clearly there's something with the advanced major league scouting department there, there's something wrong with the holes that they need to evaluate on their team, because clearly they're not picking the right guys. And it's not like these guys are bad players, but they're picking guys that are in their decline. Well, it's baffling.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, you look at some of the guys who they picked. Honestly, at the time, I thought Daniel Murphy was a pretty solid pickup. I mean, he was great for the Chicago Cubs. Wade Davis, I thought that was another great pickup. He was really good for the Chicago Cubs when he signed there. Brian Shaw, I thought was a pretty solid pickup because he was doing so well for the Indians. So I think you are right, James, when you do say that there is someone with the advanced scouting program. It's really difficult to tell what exactly is it. That's what I'm seeing. It's just I don't understand what exactly it is.
Well, there also must be a deeper-rooted organizational issue, because Nolan Arenado has wanted out of there for the last 2 seasons, and he was on starting 9 a few weeks ago, right after he got traded from the Rockies to the Cardinals, and he just seemed relieved. He seemed very relieved. He seemed very happy with St. Louis, and even though he has 2 more opt-outs in his deal, he said it was very highly unlikely that he would not be opting out. So he just seems happy to be in a new place, in a place that has so much history, and a place that respects him, unlike what happened in Colorado, because it seemed to get pretty ugly there at the end.
I agree for sure. And I will say this. The Rockies front office, one of the signings that I think all of us were criticizing at the time was I did not like that Ian Desmond signing right as it happened. I mean,
it was a joke.
It was a joke. He was hitting. I think he hit 249 the season before with the Nationals. Then he gets traded to the Rangers.
He hit about 270.
I'm saying
season before.
The season before he hit about 249.
Yes.
Then he gets traded to the Texas Rangers, hits 285, and the Rockies give him a 5-year deal. That was obviously a big mistake.
But here's the thing: the best part about that deal was the fact that he was a shortstop, converted center fielder, signed by the Rockies to play first base. Who is making these decisions? Honestly, I mean, you said, look at the front office, there must be a problem. I'm pretty sure the quote from the president of the team the other day, or not the other day, this was a couple weeks ago once they traded Nolan, when they asked him, have you thought about firing the GM? He said, I haven't thought about firing the GM, I've thought about firing myself.
I heard that. That was so bad.
I don't blame him.
Well, then he also said how everyone who asks him these questions doesn't know a thing about baseball compared to him, which is just an absolute joke. But going back to the Desmond signing, they've saved $28 million because he's opted out of the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, I'm sure that they're heartbroken about that.
Oh, I'm sure.
Really. I think we conclude on the Rockies having the worst offseason with saying that it's a real shame that they're one of the only teams that will be offering 50% capacity come opening day, because I don't think they're going to get anywhere near 50% of their fans in Coors Field. But moving on from the worst, I think all 3 of us can also agree on the team that had the absolute best. And, of course, I don't like giving the trophy to the team that had the best offseason before the season starts, because it happened with the Padres in 2000, I don't even know, 14 or 15.
2014.
Kimbrel and all that. It happened with the Phillies in 2018 to 19. So I'm not going to go ahead and give this team the trophy right away. But I will say what they did is remarkable. And I'm, of course, talking about the San Diego Padres. Can we all agree on that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Yep.
It's gonna be a dogfight between them and the Dodgers all season for the NL West title, and then inevitably when they meet in the playoffs. And I think the winner of the NL will probably come from one of those 2 teams.
Now, I will say, I definitely agree the Padres had the best offseason, but it's not like they were the only team that came out as big winners. To me, unlike most off seasons, there were several winners this offseason.
I would agree.
Usually we look at off seasons and we'll say, oh yeah, there's a handful of teams that did not do so well. But this year, I was surprised. I mean, I thought that a whole bunch of teams improved.
I think in staying with the National League, you look at the NL East, the New York Mets, the Atlanta Braves, both of those teams stick out. Obviously, the Braves with re-signing Ozuna. Charlie Morton is a really good addition for that pitching staff, and Drew Smyly adds depth. And then obviously the Mets, the big splash with Lindor.
I love we're gonna just leave out that fourth team there, so that's cool. Thank you.
The Philadelphia Phillies and the Washington Nationals?
Dude,
I'm talking.
Here's the problem, right? The Nationals. Let's talk about offseason real quick. What they did were good moves on paper, but I don't actually like anything they did this offseason.
The Nationals?
I have, and look, living in D.C. as a Phillies fan is a problem here because I get a lot of crap for this. But the Nationals are not going to be a good team.
What?
And you can roast me all you want for this when they're winning the World Series in November. But listen to this. The guy that I said all on this show last year, I said, you need someone to protect Juan Soto. You need someone to protect Juan Soto. Juan Soto is the best pure hitter in probably all of baseball. I'm dead serious. He has the best eye, best pick selection. That guy is a literal god among men.
Juan Soto is a future Hall of Famer.
He is.
Let's
Absolutely.
say that.
And
He's a future Hall of Famer, and he's probably the closest thing to Ted Williams that we've seen since Ted Williams. And that's not a hyperbole.
That's a fantastic comparison. And that's what I'm saying. You need someone to protect him. And the first time I said this was when Anthony Rendon did not re-sign with the Nationals. I said, you're going to regret this. You gave all that money to Strasburg, a guy who's old, who throws hard, who's gotten hurt so many times. And look, then they had, who was it? Howie Kendrick protecting them last year?
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Now they have Josh Bell, and Josh Bell could be a great player this year, and he was a great player a few years ago. But the man was not good last year, and I'm still not afraid of him enough to pitch to Juan Soto.
Well, my thing is, I think Juan Soto's so good to the point where you don't really need somebody to protect him. Like, yeah, it helps, but like you said, he's the best pure hitter in baseball. It's not like go back on air. I 100% agreed. They should not have signed Steven Strasburg. They should have signed Anthony Rendon. But I will say this, that Juan Soto is so good to the point where they don't need a superstar behind him. I think that he's so good to the point where he's going to put up good at-bats no matter who's hitting behind him. He's going to get on base no matter what happens. He's going to get base hits no matter what. So even though Juan Soto may not have somebody protecting him, I still think he's going to be okay. He's my MVP favorite, actually.
James, I'm going to ask you a quick question about the Nationals here since they're your second team. When does the close to $700 million committed into 3 single starting pitchers start to worry you? Because we have Max Scherzer, who's approaching age 40 eventually. We have Steven Strasburg, who was just hurt again. And we have Patrick Corbin, who had one of the highest hard ball hit percentages in baseball last year for starters.
Not as soon as you would think, because Scherzer's contract is up after 22.
That's also true, yes.
Yeah, he's free agent.
So, he is coming off the books after his age 37 season. But it really depends this year on how Strasburg rebounds from his injury-plagued season last year. He only made 2 starts. If Corbin can rebound, I think a lot of guys who had bad years last year, and we'll get into this later, you can kind of almost put it at, you can kind of throw it away in the wash because it was such a weird year and guys were going through so many different circumstances. But I think what they're doing this offseason is similar to what they did in the offseason leading up to 19 when they added a lot of veterans. And I know they got off to a rocky start and they eventually rebounded, but they can't afford to get off to a rocky start again with these moves. They need to have Schwarber have a bounce back year. They need Lester to just eat innings at the back end of the rotation. They need Bell to return to his first half of form in 2019. And I think they'll be competing for a wild card. I don't necessarily think they'll make the playoffs, but I think that they'll finish above 500 and be competing. And if everything goes right, they can make the playoffs. But it's such a loaded division with the Braves, the Mets, and the Phillies as well.
I would agree.
Excellent points. And I do want to touch back. We spent a little bit of time on the NL East here, which we seem to do a lot here on the NL East. So I do want to go out west again and just highlight some of the insane moves the Padres made this offseason. But before we do that, just a quick reminder to anyone who wants to call in, join the discussion, or start a new topic at any time. That number is 202-319-5106. That's 202-319-5106. So, yeah, with that said, let's go back to the West because the Padres, well, they did a couple things this offseason, Robbie and James. And I think those things, like James said, could potentially decide who the winner of not only the NL West is, but the NL in its entirety. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, you look at Blake Snell, you look at Yu Darvish. Obviously, those are the two big additions that stand out, but they needed to bolster their rotation depth, especially with Clevenger being out this year. You don't know what you're getting from Chris Paddock. Dinelson Lamet broke out last year, but he probably needs another year to establish himself to be a guy. Obviously, like he was phenomenal last year, but he needs to do it over a full 162. But you put a former Cy Young and then a perennial Cy Young contender in Darvish in your rotation. I mean, how does that not help you? And then Joe Musgrove at the back end to provide depth.
Oh, it's just ridiculous. It's like they didn't stop. They got one starting pitcher, and they just kept getting more and more and more. And I'm just like, what? Because, like you said, Paddock was there. Paddock had a good year, I think, 2 years ago. You had Lamet.
Yeah, 19 he did.
You had all these guys. And then, like you said, let's not forget, we still have Clevenger on the shelf. I mean,
exactly.
once he comes back,
and then Mackenzie Gore, the number one pitching prospect in baseball, still in AAA.
Yeah.
He's only 22 years old.
The Padres acquired so many pieces through trades, and they still have one of the best farm systems in baseball.
That's ridiculous. It absolutely is.
And they didn't need to acquire much offense because their offense is really, really good with all the pieces they have. Trent Grisham, Will Myers, obviously Machado and Tatis. Even Hosmer had a decent year last year.
Don't forget
that team is loaded from top to bottom.
Cronenworth as well was pretty good hitter last year.
Yep, of course, Jake Cronenworth.
I mean, that is just it's a good team. I mean, let's talk about a specific member of that offense, and specifically the amount of money that this man was handed. And before both people here tell me that it was a fantastic deal that they locked him up, I will go on the record saying I don't like the Fernando Tatis extension. He got extended to an absurd amount of money. I believe it was 14 years. And do you remember the exact amount, Robbie?
$340 million.
$340. And I want to point out that this man has not played 162 games ever in his career. Well, now, we've heard of them giving contracts to guys who've never made a debut, but they haven't been anything close to this. You're talking like Scott Kingery getting $24 million before he debuted. Eloy Jimenez getting, what was it, $60 or $7 million before he debuted, something like that. But this man has debuted, and he has been fantastic. But 14 years committing to a guy who hasn't played 162 games. James, thoughts on that?
I think I have a twofold approach to it. Like, obviously, you want to lock up your young stars, but I think they could have waited a year just to see how everything played out over 162. I'm not denying Fernando Tatis' talent.
Oh, not
Fernando
at all.
Tatis Jr. is one of the most talented players in baseball. He is one of the most electric players in baseball, and also one of the most marketable players in baseball, which is huge, especially for an up-and-coming team like the Padres. But it's a lot of money to hand to a guy he's only played 143 games in his career. He's never even played the equivalent of 162. He was really, really good in 19, but he had two big injuries. He missed a month and a half from the end of April to early June, and then he was out, I believe, from like August 20th to the end of the season with a hamstring and then a back injury. So, I mean, health is not a concern yet, but, I think you always have to be careful about giving out that kind of money, especially when I just wish they would have waited one more year. I don't think it was like a bad move, but I'm not like, oh wow, they should have just waited one more year. But at the end of the day, Tatis is going to produce. He's going to put up numbers, and the Padres are going to have to live with the result. And after Robbie goes, I've got a question to ask both of you about it.
Absolutely, Robbie, thoughts on the deal?
Oh well, I mean, yeah, I definitely agree. Like, it was probably too soon to give him an extension, but I still would have done it. I believe Fernando Tatis Jr. is going to be the future of baseball. I believe that he's going to win MVP awards. I believe that he's going to lead the Padres to a World Series, and I see so much potential in him. I think that even though it may have been a lot of money and it may have been a little bit premature, I think at the end of the day, this deal is going to end up working out pretty well for both sides. Now, another thing, if Fernando Tatis Jr. performs really well this upcoming season, wouldn't you think that his value probably would have gone up even more?
Yeah, but you have to take the gamble that he's going to produce well again.
I don't see why he wouldn't produce well. I mean, he's turning, 22 years old next year?
What if he gets hurt again? Like James said, there was two big injuries in 2019 he had.
That's fair, but to me, that's a chance I'm willing to take.
Okay.
Like, I don't think it was a bad deal. I want to get that out there because his value, especially if he keeps going the way he's going, if they had continued to wait, he would have commanded so much more money. I just think you look at his two injuries, and he's never played a full 162, and he struggled in September, which, obviously things happen, and I'm sure he would have rebounded over a full 162 if that was in May or June. But, you just never know, and it's so hard to predict with these guys. But ultimately, I think it will work out for both of them, especially because his average annual value is only $24 million a year, and when his contract is up, he'll only be 34 or 35, I believe. So it's not like he's there till he's 39 or 40, like the deals with Harper and Betts. Now, a question I wanted to ask both of you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Would you have this same reaction if the Nationals offered Juan Soto the same deal?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Just because, like, I know Soto has played more, but, they're both in very similar positions. So I think that's why I wanted to ask it like that.
I would feel
because I think it would be great.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say I would feel safer giving that money to Juan Soto than I would to Fernando Tatis Jr.
I agree.
I would agree with Robbie. If that deal, and of course, like James said, this guy has played 162 games. He's played a lot more games than that. But even if it was a little more money and maybe another year, I'd still feel like that's fine.
Well, see, Juan Soto now is probably going to get close to $400 million, and I think they're going to work on that extension very, very soon.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest.
Or else it's going to keep going up.
Does he honestly want an extension? Because that man's going to hit the market. He debuted when he was 19. He's going to hit the market when he's
hit it when he's 26.
25. Yeah. That man could get absolute buckets of money on the free market, on the open market.
I'm going to say that I do agree with James. I do think that the Nationals need to approach him with at least a $400 million contract very soon. And honestly, I do think he will take it. I don't see how anybody could turn down $410 million. I mean, do you know? I mean, he's going to be 24 years old, and somebody's going to offer him $410 million.
Someone's probably going to offer him more than that.
Well, I'm saying the Nationals.
Oh,
an
yeah.
extension. Mm-hmm. I don't see him turning that down. I don't see very many people turning that down. But going back to James's question, another reason I'm picking Juan Soto is obviously because, he's played more games. It's a safer bet. But the thing that I think is going to stand out about Soto over Tatis is over their careers, I believe that Soto will win more MVPs. I believe that even though Fernando Tatis may be the face of baseball, I could see this being not exactly the same, but almost like a Bryce Harper, Mike Trout type comparison. Remember back when they were both really young, they were both really good, everybody's saying, oh, who's the face of baseball? A lot of people said Bryce Harper was face of baseball. Andrew, you still say Bryce Harper's the face of baseball.
I said he was the face of baseball when we signed him. I do think
exactly.
Fernando Tatis is.
So what I'm saying is Fernando Tatis, I think, is more going to be like Bryce Harper, where he's going to be the face of baseball.
Yeah.
Whereas Soto, I could see being more of like Mike Trout, where he's just the better player.
It's a fair argument. I would agree with that. I think it's very possible.
I would also throw Soto in the face of baseball discussion, though, and especially I think the three guys that are right up there are the two guys we mentioned, Tatis and Soto, and also Acuna. Like those three guys are they're young, they're electric, and they play the game the right way.
I don't know if Acuna plays the game the right way, but the other two,
fair enough.
I'm not a fan of him.
In terms of the numbers he puts up.
Okay, yeah. Well, then in that case, I mean, then I guess John Rocker is playing the game the right way, Cause
John Rocker? John Rocker?
John Rocker.
What?
I don't know, man. I was trying to pull a random name, but no, yeah, I think that's a very solid debate. You could see either one of those two, maybe three, depending on who you ask. Although I don't know if Ronald Acuna is up in that discussion yet. But yes, bottom line, I think we can conclude with 1 point. James Shields is the reason the Padres are amazing. Right
I was actually thinking about asking you guys this earlier. Do you think that the Shields trade is the worst trade of all time?
No,
because Tatis, at that time, Tatis wasn't as highly regarded
James,
as he was when he was coming up through the Padres system.
James, I got a trade that I think is worse, and I'm going to ask you your thoughts on it because it involves the Red Sox.
Okay.
1989, I believe, an old man named Larry Anderson traded for some unknown third baseman named Jeff Bagwell.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. Once I heard you say 89, I figured you were going to talk about that. I mean, look, ultimately it didn't end up working out, but it is what it is. I also wasn't alive then, and I was very young when Jeff Bagwell retired. So I mean, in terms of one of the worst trades ever, yes, it's up there. I think if you really want to talk about the Red Sox and worst trades ever, put Mookie Betts up there or Babe Ruth.
Well, would you consider the Babe Ruth to the Yankees thing
I think that might be cheating a little bit.
Well, I said the worst trade of all time. I mean, Babe Ruth is an all-time player.
Okay, that's fair. But I think that might be. I think we all universally agree that was the worst trade ever.
Babe Ruth.
Yes.
Yes.
But I mean, I think obviously. But I think we can. I don't know. That's a good question though. About if Tatis for Shields is worse than something like Anderson for Bagwell or Betts for all those other guys.
I do think it does depend on how Tatis turns out because like you guys have been saying, it's so unclear how Fernando Tatis Jr. is going to pan out. Now, I'm still going to say that, yes, it is worse because I really do think that Tatis is going to be the face of baseball. I do see him winning MVPs. I could see him winning at least 3 MVPs. I could see a Juan Soto versus Fernando Tatis MVP debate nearly every single year in the future. For Juan Soto's what, 23 years old?
Yeah.
Fernando Tatis is what, like 22?
Yep.
That's correct.
And this past season, both of them were nearly the MVPs.
That's fair.
So that alone, and honestly, I still think Juan Soto should have won MVP. That's neither here nor there, but that's my point right there. Like, they're both going to be winning a boatload of MVPs in the future. I don't think that's a debate.
All right, very good point. To round out our off-season discussion here, before we jump into a little bit of some spring training, just a reminder, if you want to call at any time, that number is 202-319-5106. Let me highlight, as Robbie said, a lot of teams had a good offseason, so let me highlight one that maybe a lot of people aren't talking about, but I really think did what they needed to do to compete deep in the playoffs this year, and that's the Chicago White Sox. The Chicago White Sox made a couple moves that I adored this year, adding to an already insanely talented team.
See, I'm not going to lie. Okay, yes, the White Sox improved. I don't think people are talking about that Lance Lynn trade enough because at the trade deadline last year, he was one of the most highly coveted pitchers on the market. However, I spoke with a baseball fan the other day, and they said the White Sox are going to be the Yankees' biggest competitions in the American League this upcoming season. That the White Sox did not improve that much. I don't want to hear it. They got better, absolutely, but they're not going to be the Yankees' number one competitor to making the World Series out of the American League. That's not going to be the case.
James, thoughts on that?
Who besides the Chicago White Sox is going to be the Yankees' biggest competitor? Do you really think Oakland is going to have another season like they did last year?
The Oakland Athletics, yes.
Oakland took everything that they had and then replaced it with discount. They got
Oakland is not the best team in their division.
Andrews.
Hey,
they got discount Liam Hendricks with, by the way, Trevor Rosenthal. I've been going back and forth. No, we're going to talk about Trevor Rosenthal real quick because I've been going back and forth with Robbie here about whether or not Trevor Rosenthal was going to be a good signing this year. I think Trevor Rosenthal is absolutely cooked. I think he's done. I think you should put a fork in him. And he just got $10 million.
That is
And the White Sox just signed
ridiculous.
Hendricks. Like, you talk about what the White Sox did.
What was that?
The White Sox signing Liam Hendricks.
Yeah, Liam Hendricks isn't cooked.
No, I know. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Rosenthal's replacement. Look at what the White Sox did.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
I'm trying to add to my point about the White Sox being the Yankees' biggest competition in the American League.
No.
Okay, Houston.
They're so okay.
Hold on, I want to hear why Robbie thinks that the Athletics are the biggest challenge to the Yankees in 2021. Please go ahead.
The White Sox have too many question marks.
Okay, like what?
The pitching, like the health.
The pitching.
We just talked about their pitching.
How do you
Lucas
know Michael Kopech's
Giolito.
Gonna be healthy? Hey, how do you know Michael Kopech's going to be healthy this season? Do you know that?
He's going to be their fourth starter. What does it matter?
Okay,
he's going to be their fourth
Lucas
starter,
Giolito's
and he
gonna be
throws
great again
100
this
with a 90-mile-an-hour slider.
Dallas Keuchel, man's got no more velocity. We don't know what he's going to do. Also, against the Yankees, he really does not do well. Okay, the White Sox had I don't think Jose Abreu is going to be this great again this season. Okay, I really don't think so. With the Oakland Athletics, okay, I like Trevor Rosenthal a lot. You don't like him, Andrew. James, I don't know what your opinion on Trevor Rosenthal is, but hey.
Well, Liam Hendricks is much better than Trevor Rosenthal, I'll tell you that much.
This isn't about Liam Hendricks. I want to know what your opinion about
It is about Liam Hendricks because that's who the A's replaced Trevor Rosenthal. That's who the A's replaced Trevor Rosenthal. Liam Hendricks with Trevor Rosenthal.
Do you think Trevor Rosenthal's good?
He's all right.
See, I don't even think he's all right.
See, okay, yeah, that's where you and I disagree.
Call me crazy here, but I watched Trevor Rosenthal have an infinity ERA when he was with the Nationals 2 years ago. That's kind of still seared in my mind. Hey. One flash of greatness in a COVID season doesn't make me think that he's magically fixed.
Hey, all I'm saying is, okay, the White Sox bullpen, to me, I have question marks. I would feel safe. I feel more confident in the Athletics bullpen than I do in the White Sox.
Get out of here.
It's not just Trevor Rosenthal, okay?
Who else is in that bullpen that
Lou
you like?
Trevino, he's pretty good.
He's all right.
Sergio Romo, pretty solid.
No, he's...
Yusmeiro Petit, he had some big games last season.
These guys are all like almost 40, except for Trevino. He's pretty solid.
Okay, I mean, that's your opinion. Hey, I know you're really high on Matt Olson. Matt Olson pretty good.
Is a good player.
Chad Pinder, he's pretty good. I'd take him. Matt Chapman, he's pretty solid.
Yeah, he's
okay. Look, Olson and Chapman are a phenomenal duo. Granted, Olson's average was terrible last year, but he'll be top 5 in baseball in home runs this year again. But look, besides those two, like they're not the best team in their division. Houston is the best team in that division.
Oh,
and I think,
no. See, I'm sorry, man. I disagree with that as well. I see holes with the Houston Astros as well. I mean, their bullpen's going to be a question mark back.
Are there holes
rotation.
worse than the A's?
What's that?
Are there holes that much worse than Oakland?
I think so. I mean,
That's bold.
Ryan Presley's going to be their closer this season.
Yeah, but
Yeah, until they get someone at the deadline.
yeah, I was gonna say that, but
Well, you can make that. You can make that argument.
the only
anybody.
argument I would see from you is the fact that not only is Verlander out for the whole year, but they just lost Framber Valdez for the entire year
yeah,
as well.
yeah,
and
that
that
hurts.
Well,
rotation.
look, the
is
Oda
Zach
Rizzi
Greinke
signing's a
and-
good signing.
Yeah, they needed to sign. Now, I have a question for you guys. Outside of Liam Hendricks and Evan Marshall, can you name 3 guys in that White Sox bullpen?
Yeah. I'm going to name you one who's going to carry them, and it won't matter about the other two. Garrett Crochet is an absolute stud. I think he's going to be Aroldis Chapman type levels of greatness this year. And I'm not talking about 2020 Aroldis Chapman like greatness. I'm talking like 2015 Aroldis Chapman.
They just have to be careful with him because there was a slight scare that they might need Tommy John.
Yeah,
and he blew through their alternate site all the way up to the playoffs really, really fast last year after no spring season at Tennessee. So they just have to monitor him and be careful. But he's probably their next Chris Sale. Use him out of the bullpen for 2 years, then have him start, then trade him.
Yeah, that's true. But okay, going back to the Athletics versus the White Sox. If you look at the Oakland Athletics.
Dude, I will give you the field versus the White Sox. I will give you the field.
Okay.
I'm willing to make that bet. I'm willing to take the Oakland Athletics over anybody else against the Yankees in the American League Championship Series.
Wow.
What
about the Twins, though, dude? They beat you guys so bad.
Hey, no. Okay, the Twins, I think, are underrated. I mean, the Twins are pretty solid. I mean,
the Twins are pretty solid, but don't lie here. You salivate at the thought of playing the Twins in the postseason.
Who doesn't? They haven't won a postseason game since 2004.
Exactly, yeah.
Poor Minnesota.
I love playing the Twins in the playoffs because it means we're going to sweep them. It means we're going to walk right through. It's going to be a cakewalk. However, the main point is I think that the Yankees have no excuse not to make the World Series this season. Like,
that's what you've said the last 3 years.
No, but hey.
No. I'm not like making fun of you because that's all Yankees fans have said that. Like, at a certain
James,
point,
that was low key a roast, though.
No, but here's the thing.
No, but the thing is, it's not him. It's
roast.
every single year. Yankees fans are like, "This is the year we have no excuse," and yet it continually doesn't.
No, but
happen.
here's the thing. Okay, so in previous years, I think that there's been a team where you could make the argument. Yeah, they're up there at their level. The Astros.
Wait, who was it last year?
The Rays.
Yeah, dude. No, but dude, last year they signed Garrett Cole to the biggest free
could've.
agent contract ever for a pitcher.
Yeah.
Like last year, there was no excuse.
No,
right?
Okay,
no
fine.
excuse.
Yeah, I agree. There was no excuse, but I'm saying the Yankees weren't like.
They were the team last year.
They were the team, but hey, the Rays, they were still solid. The Astros, hey, nobody knew that Justin Verlander was going to get injured. Okay, at the time, we were all making the argument. Oh, it could be Yankees, Astros, ALCS. You never know what's going to happen with the Astros. You never know what's going to happen with the Rays, the Yankees. But this year, I don't think that the White Sox, the Athletics, the Twins, anybody you name is even close with the Yankees level. In previous years, I think that you can make the argument that, hey, the Red Sox, the Astros, heck, even the Rays, you can make the argument that they were up there with the Yankees. But this year, I don't think that there's anybody who's up there.
I'll give you this. The Yankees are the best team in the American League right now. I'm not shying away from that. All that I'm saying is that year after year, they have failed to produce in the postseason. So what makes you believe that this year is going to be the year that they magically turn it on? What if they continue to have injury issues? What if they just get beat in a best-of-7 series because they're the worst team on 4 nights?
Like,
strange
can't
things
predict
happen.
injuries. You can't predict injuries.
Actually, you can because your guys' medical staff is the worst.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Who's going to get injured? We don't know who's going to get injured.
Someone will.
Judge is going to get hurt by June 1st and miss 30 games at some point this year.
Hey, James, you better be careful or else Rafael Devers is going to get injured. I've made the same mistake before. I told Andrew Bryce Harper was going to get injured, and every single Yankee got injured.
No. This guy, this is a side note here, but this guy, after we had our monster offseason in 2019, we would be sitting in the middle of a class or in a building, and he would be looking up Gene Segura getting hurt. Bryce Harper getting hurt. And I'd be like, bro, what are you doing? And that was the exact year that the Yankees set the record for most hurt players in April, I believe.
Yes, that's the case. It's very true. But going back to the point that James was making about why I think that the Yankees are going to be special this year, I'm going to reiterate the point that there is nobody even close to their level this season, whereas in years prior, yes, they were the best team. Yes, there was no excuse, but there were teams that you could make the argument, hey, this team is pretty solid. Whereas this year, I don't see anybody who's in that argument. Now, if you want to say, oh, Aaron Judge is going to get hurt, oh, John Carlos Stanton's going to get hurt, hey, it's very possible. But I'm saying on paper right now, we don't know what's going to happen.
Fair enough. And on the flip side, if you look at the National League, like top to bottom, that is much more competitive than the American
Absolutely.
League. I mean, there's only 5 playoff spots, but I could think of probably 8 or 9 teams who could make those 5 spots if things go right. Obviously, I think the Dodgers and the Padres are 2 locks. And then Atlanta probably, but then you look at St. Louis, you look at Milwaukee, you look at Washington, Philadelphia. I mean, there's a lot of competitive teams in the National League. I think that's going to be a really fun race all year for wild card spot and some of the division races.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't know if we're going to get into this later in the show, but I think it's a lock that let's say the Padres get the wild card. Like, we're going to assume the Dodgers win the NL West, correct?
Yes, the Dodgers and the Padres are both getting in.
I'm saying like the Dodgers will win the West.
Oh, I don't know if I'd assume that.
I really think the Dodgers are going to win the West, and I believe the Padres will be the number 1 wild card seed.
I think the division race will be within 3 games. I think it'll come down to like the last series of the season.
I really think that I don't see the Dodgers not winning the NL West, but the question I was going to ask you is, who do you think the other wild card team is going to be?
I think the Braves are going to. Well, I mean, we're saving our predictions for next week, but I think the Braves are going to win the NL East, and I'll reveal my other wild card team next week.
We're gonna get to predictions next week. We figure it's about time. We're about 3/4 way through spring at that point, so we'll save that for next week. But it's a fair point by Robbie, and
absolutely,
I think that'll be a fun discussion because we always have the best prediction shows here, and we always all agree. That's the best part.
And the thing is, we're always right. You know what I mean?
And that's the other
Every
part.
single year, we're right.
Robbie Cruz is your daily sports truth. He has never said anything wrong, ever.
I never have.
Remember when Luke Voigt won the MVP in 2019? I remember that.
And remember when the Yankees won the World Series last year?
I do. And see, these were NPNC first exclusive takes, of course, that were 100% right. So we got about 10 minutes left in the show here. And before we close it out, a quick reminder, if you want to call in at all, that number is 202-319-5106 right here in the WCUA studio. So let's spend the last 10 minutes here talking a little about spring training. We've talked a lot about teams. Let's talk about players now. And, guys, I want to hear your spring training performances for players that you're most impressed with so far. And then, as a separate point, I want to know if you think it will last. I have a player. I know Robbie has a player. James, you got one in mind?
Yeah, I do, and it's someone. Is it fine if I do someone on my own team?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going with Bobby Dahlbeck. He's hit 5 home
pick.
runs this spring, 12 RBIs. He's hitting .333. Yes, the strikeouts are up just like they were last year when he came up. He strikes out a lot, but last year in a shortened season, he only got 85 at bats, and he hit 8 home runs in a very shortened season. I know he struck out a lot. I know that he had trouble making contact at the beginning, but he went. I know Andrew saw 2 or 3 of these against the Phillies, but he went on a streak where he hit 5 home runs consecutively in a game.
That man,
not like 5 at bats in a row, but in 5 consecutive games. And I think, Dahlbeck will continue to transform this year, continue to become more of a complete hitter. I think he's going to be the Red Sox starting first baseman, and he's not going to be a high average guy, but as long as he can keep driving the ball and driving in runs, I think he'll be a 30 home run, 90 RBI guy and win AL Rookie of the Year. I really think it'll carry over because every year through the minors and even last year in the shortened season, as the season progresses, he makes contact more and he strikes out less and he gets on base more via the walk. So I think once he makes those adjustments, once pitchers adjust to him, he'll be fine. He'll cut down on the strikeouts, get on base more, continue producing because he's been a home run hitter from his time at Arizona State to his time in the minors to his time with the Red Sox last year. And I think this hot spring will really carry over into the regular season and vault him to AL Rookie of the Year.
That's a very good take, and I have to acknowledge, of course, what James said there. Yes, I did witness Bobby Dahlbeck absolutely demolished.
I don't remember who else he faced. I just remembered one of them was in a game against the Phillies. I think the other it started against the Nats and then it ended against the Rays.
We played you guys in a doubleheader in the end of August, I believe, and
he hit a home run in both games.
I think he hit 3 in 2 games. It was ridiculous.
Oh yeah, he hit 2 in one game, and then in the nightcap he hit another one, and then he had like a 2-run double. I mean, he really drives the ball, man. It's just about not striking out for him. I mean, I know that sounds simple, but that really is the key for Dahlbeck. Just put the ball in play.
Yeah, 100%. Robbie, who is your spring training performance that you're most excited for, and will he continue it into the regular season?
So, my biggest pick my favorite pick is Jay Bruce. I did not expect Jay Bruce to perform this well.
I like it.
Honestly,
That's a surprise.
Yeah, I did not think that Jay Bruce is probably going to make the Yankees bench.
He is.
I did not think he was going to make this bench. I thought I wouldn't say he was washed, but I did not think he was going to perform this well. Now, the guy that I think is probably one of the best spring training performances I've seen has to be Sandy Alcantara. The dude has thrown 13 innings, has not given up a single run, and has 20 strikeouts. Okay, the dude looks great. And I understand that a lot of people are high on him. He's really good. But, hey, he has been going off this spring training.
Sandy Alcantara is
2019 All-Star.
Yes.
Yeah.
He is an insanely talented pitcher. The amount of times the Phillies have had to face him in the past couple of years is ridiculous. Every time he's on the mound, I'm just you got to be kidding me. I'm pretty sure he made his major league debut against us and shut us down for 7 innings or something like that.
I like the Alcantara pick, Robbie.
Yeah, that's a great pick. He is a very talented pitcher, and I got to say something. Look, the Marlins, they're not going to win. They're not going to make the playoffs this year, and last year was great for all of them. But that's a really good pitching staff there. It really is.
It's so underrated. A lot of people like to trash the Marlins, but hey, there is hope and promise with their pitching.
Derek Jeter is doing his thing down there in Miami for sure.
It's just the lineup's just so bad.
It's not great. I think they still have Aguilar.
Starling Marte.
They have Marte, which was a good pick. They did not re-sign VR. They have Anderson. That's the thing. That lineup's just not good.
I mean, Brian Anderson, Miguel Rojas.
Yeah.
There are pieces there. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but they do have some solid pieces. And if they do fall out of it, you'll see Marte get traded. You could see Miguel Rojas get traded if things really do go haywire. But it's not. They're not going to make the playoffs, but they're not going to be an awful team. They'll be pesky.
That's the thing. When we were coming into 2019 and also 2020, everyone always was looking at the NL East and said, well, you got 4 teams, and then you just got a punching bag down there in Miami. But here's the thing. That's not the case this year. You have 4 teams that could legitimately make the playoffs, and then you have a team that could play spoiler not just a few times, but consistently. I could see the Marlins they're not going to have a winning record, but they could be hanging in there and ruining some dreams of
I was going to say, didn't
some
they
Braves fans?
They ruined the Phillies year 2 years ago.
We don't talk about the Marlins when they play the Phillies because the Marlins become the prime 1920s New York Yankees.
I was
going to
say they beat you 12 times that year.
It was ridiculous.
And I think for the Marlins, winning 75 games this year is a huge success. And if they can do that, then we can really start talking about them over the next couple of years when they make moves in free agency as a legit contender. If they can build off it and have a good year this year. Obviously, that's getting way too far ahead. But, I mean, if they do have a successful year this year with the pieces they have, they will be players in free agency and the trade market in the offseason.
I agree. All right, Andrew, let's hear your prediction.
So here's the thing. My original pick I thought was too easy, and I thought one of you was going to take it, so I didn't say it. So let me just show love to him real quick, and that's, of course, Jock Peterson, who is absolutely...
he's hitting 500.
What is going on? I don't think he's going to continue it, but, man, right now the Cubs are looking pretty smart for ditching Schwarber and replacing him with Jock Peterson. That man's just...
Hey, Schwarber hit a home run today.
Oh, that's true. Kyle Schwarber did hit a home run today. But no, my guy is an outfielder from the St. Louis Cardinals, and that's Tyler O'Neill. Tyler O'Neill this spring is also batting. He's batting 481. He's not batting 500 anymore. In 27 at bats, he's got 13 hits, 22 total bases. He's got 2 home runs. He's driven in 8. He's got a 500 on base percentage. Now, here's the thing with Tyler O'Neill. We've seen him have a high on base percentage throughout his career, even when he was still in Seattle. Before he was moved to the St. Louis Cardinals. But average has always been the problem with him. I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but he was touted as a guy who had a lot of power, that had a lot of pop, but he just hasn't been able to show that.
You're right, yeah.
And here's the thing. If he's not going to develop that pop, he's going to have to make up with that with having a higher average. The man hit 235, 230 in the past 2 seasons, and I don't know if this spring's showing if he can make a little more consistent contact. Getting on base not even the problem. It's just getting a couple more hits, driving in some more runs. I mean, I think he could be a solid piece on that team, which I will say will be important because unlike everyone else, I'm not handing the NL Central to the St. Louis Cardinals just about yet. But we'll get into that next week. Okay. I do think that there's a possibility that another team could play some spoiler there. But again, not going to talk about predictions until we get to next week's show. But yes, Tyler O'Neill, outfielder for the Cardinals.
That's a good pick.
My pick.
Honestly, I could see O'Neill having a really big season for St. Louis. I think everybody's going to be focused on Arenado. Everybody's going to be focused on Goldschmidt, Paul DeJong possibly. But then I think O'Neill could really come in and make a name for himself this year.
I mean, he's 25. He's still really young. I think there's just some of these guys don't break out right away. He was a top prospect. I don't even remember what trade he was in. I don't know
Marco
if any-
Gonzalez.
Yes, that's correct. There you go. And
Wait, what trade?
James, what was that?
Marco Gonzalez.
Yes, Marco Gonzalez.
Oh.
There you go.
I think it was in 16 or 17.
Yeah,
And
I
then
forgot about that.
they
I
that's,
didn't
I mean,
know that. Oh my goodness.
That's the thing. I
O'Neal is
honestly
a big
forgot.
reason why they moved on from Grichuk because they really thought that he was going to take his place. He and Bader. Bader has not worked out at all.
No.
But O'Neal, if he can become the guy that they think he can be, that's a dangerous team over there. Obviously with Goldschmidt and Arenado.
Yeah.
It is. The one thing I will say though, that's a very right-handed heavy team, which is
Yes.
Matt Carpenter. What?
Matt Carpenter's not good anymore though.
Nah, I'm just joking.
I mean, if you think about it, let's pretend O'Neal pans out. You could potentially have back-to-back Arenado, Goldschmidt, O'Neal. I mean,
Yeah.
they're good. That's don't get me wrong, it's a very good lineup. But I call me old-fashioned. I like splitting it up. I like having a switch hitter in there. I like having a lefty in there. That's just me, maybe, but that scares me a little bit.
You know, you always ask me, why does Aaron Hicks hit third for the Yankees? That's the exact reason.
Well, one of these days, we're going to have a debate on here, and I want as many people as possible to call in on whether or not Aaron Hicks is an above-average baseball player.
Not worth $70 million.
That he's not. He's not worth $70 million. I don't even think I don't think he's an above-average baseball player. I don't.
You know what? This debate will happen this
Wait,
next
we'll do it later.
sometime. Yeah, because I have so much ammo, and I will hunt you down. I will change your mind on this.
For both of your guys' sake, let's do it a month into the season so you
Yeah.
two can use this season.
I like
and
that.
I will just jump in with random Aaron Hicks stats that
I
don't
like
support either people's case.
Remember how freshman year we did that debate show? How we had a few episodes where we would debate like Stanton versus JD Martinez. And
Of course.
Hey,
We're doing
Aaron Hicks or nah, that's going to be the
All
next
right.
debate.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we then have a NPNC debate going to be featured about a month from now then. Is Aaron Hicks an above-average player? So please stay tuned for that. That's going to be a very fun show, I believe. But with that said, that's about all the time we have here tonight for Nation's Pastime and Nation's Capital. Before we leave you, just a quick reminder once again, go follow us on Twitter. It takes about 10 seconds, and you'll get all the updates you need to about the show. That Twitter is @NatPastimeCap. And you'll find a link to our YouTube on there, which is going to post our videos. And I believe we've said it so many times on the show, but we should have Spotify up and running at any one of these days now. There's already a couple NPNC episodes up there. There's some older ones from last season. I'm not sure what the logistics behind that are. We have to work that out with the radio network and the studio and everything. But as for now, you can safely find all of our shows for sure on that YouTube channel. So, as we said, next week on the show, we're going to be talking about some predictions that we have for the entire season. Guys, I believe we're just going to do divisions. We don't want to do awards yet, do we?
Well, we can do it. I mean, it'll probably be our last show before the regular season.
Yeah.
That's actually a good point. I think there might be one more, actually. Are we Thursday nights?
Yeah,
Thursday
April
nights?
1st is opening day.
First one, yeah, that last one will be opening day, and we're going to talk about opening day that night. So we might as well. So we're going to do some division and postseason predictions. We'll try to keep it brief so we can get through them all, and then the major awards: Cy Young, MVP, Rookie of the Year, all that. Because we did have some fantastic Rookie of the Year picks a couple years ago that ended up being the case. Pete Alonso by James and I, and yeah. So you never know. We might be another a sports truth moment here on, as Robbie Cruz likes to say, here on Nation's Pastime and Nation's Capital. But that's going to about do it for tonight. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We'll be live again next week on WCUA Radio from, I'm going to say, a little after 7 Eastern Standard Time until 8 p.m. as well. That's all we have again. Thank you very much. Coming up next, of course, is going to be a brand new show debuting for the first time on WCUA Radio. So stay on, show them some love, and that's going to be Talking Hoops with Robbie Cruz and Jay Buono. So please stay tuned for that. Everyone else, have a fantastic rest of your night. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.